You know what's crazy? Credit card companies have convinced millions of people that paying the minimum is being responsible. Like they've actually made you believe that sending them $35 on a $3,000 balance means you're handling your business. Meanwhile, they're making more money off you than a Vegas casino makes off a gambling addict. Here's something that should make you angry. If you have a $5,000 credit card balance at 22% interest and you only pay the minimum, you'll be in debt for over 30 years and you'll pay more than $11,000 in interest alone. That's not a typo. You'll pay $11,000 to borrow $5,000. That's more than double. And the credit card companies know exactly what they're doing. My name is Mike. And today, we're exposing the credit card trap that's keeping millions of Americans broke. If you're tired of financial advice that protects banks instead of you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Because what I'm about to show you is going to make you rethink everything about how you use credit cards. Now, before we dive into the math that credit card companies desperately don't want you to understand, let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at your credit card statement and wondered why your balance barely goes down even though you've been making payments for months? That's not an accident. That's the trap working exactly as designed. How the trap works, let's start with the basics. Because credit card companies count on you not understanding how this actually works. When you carry a balance on a credit card, you're charged interest. But here's the thing most people don't realize. That interest is calculated daily, not monthly, daily. So every single day you carry a balance, interest is piling up. Now here's where it gets predatory. The minimum payment is specifically calculated to keep you in debt as long as possible, while making you feel like you're making progress. Most credit cards set the minimum at around 1 to 3% of your balance, or $25 to $35, whichever is higher. This seems reasonable until you actually run the numbers. Let me give you a real example that's going to blow your mind. Let's say you have a $3,000 balance on a card with 24% APR, which is pretty typical in 2026. Your minimum payment is probably around $75. Seems manageable, right? You think, I can afford $75 a month? I'm being responsible. Here's what actually happens. Out of that $75 payment, about $60 goes to interest and only $15 goes toward your actual balance. You just paid $75 and your balance only went down by $15. You're on a hamster wheel. And the credit card company is making bank while you're running in circles. But it gets worse as your balance slowly decreases. Your minimum payment also decreases. So next month, maybe your minimum is $73, then $71, then $68. The payments are shrinking, which means even less of each payment goes toward the principal. You're moving backwards while thinking you're making progress at this rate. Paying just the minimum on that $3,000 balance will take you about 13 years to pay off. And you'll end up paying over $2,400 in interest. You borrowed $3,000 and you're paying back $5,400. The credit card company just made an 80% return on their money. Can your investments do that? I doubt it. The psychology behind the trap now. Credit card companies aren't stupid. They've spent millions of dollars on psychological research to figure out exactly how to keep you trapped. And the minimum payment is their most powerful tool. Here's what happens psychologically. When you make that minimum payment, your brain gets a little dopamine hit. You feel responsible. You feel like you're handling your obligations. You're not one of those deadbeats who doesn't pay their bills. You're doing the right thing, but that feeling of responsibility is exactly what keeps you trapped. You're satisfied enough that you don't feel urgent about paying more, but you're not making enough progress to ever escape. It's like being on a treadmill that's going just fast enough to keep you from falling off, but not fast enough to actually get anywhere. Credit card companies know that if the minimum payment was higher, more people would default, and if there was no minimum payment option, people would be forced to confront their debt more seriously. The minimum payment exists in this perfect sweet spot where you stay in debt forever, but you don't default. It's genius if you're a bank, and it's devastating if you're trying to build wealth. There's also something called anchoring bias at play here. When you see that minimum payment amount on your statement, that number becomes your anchor. That's what you think you should pay. Even if you could afford to pay more, Seeing $75 minimum payment makes $75 feel like the right amount. The statement never says recommended payment, $500, or pay this much to be debt-free in 6 months. No. It just shows you the minimum because they want you to anchor to that number and pay exactly that much. The real cost of the trap, let's talk about what this trap actually costs you over a lifetime. Because the numbers are staggering and most people never calculate this, the average American with credit card debt carries about $6,500 in balances. Let's use that number. If you're paying just the minimum on $6,500 at 22% interest, you're looking at about 25 years to pay it off, and you'll pay over $9,000 in interest. But here's what nobody talks about. It's not just the interest you paid. It's the opportunity cost of what you could have done with that money. If instead of paying $9,000 in interest over 25 years, you had invested that money in index funds averaging 8% returns, you'd have over $65,000. So the real cost of the credit card trap isn't $9,000. It's $65,000 in lost wealth. That's a down payment on a house. That's a kid's college education. That's early retirement. All gone because you paid the minimum, and here's the part that should make you furious. While you're losing $65,000 in potential wealth, the credit card company is making that money plus more. They're investing your interest payments and growing their wealth while you're staying broke. This is why credit card companies are so profitable. They're not making money from people who pay off their balances every month. They're making money from people trapped in the minimum payment cycle. You are the product. Your debt is what they're selling to their shareholders. Why people stay trapped now, you might be thinking, Mike, if this is such a terrible deal, why don't people just pay more than the minimum? Good question. Let me tell you exactly why people stay trapped even when they know better. First, there's the cash flow problem. Most people who are carrying credit card debt are doing so because they don't have extra money lying around. They're living paycheck to paycheck. The minimum payment is all they can afford. Or at least that's what they tell themselves. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people could pay more if they really prioritized it. They just don't. They're choosing to spend money on other things. Eating out, subscriptions, entertainment, while making minimum payments on debt that's costing them 20 to 25% interest. Think about that for a second. You're paying 22% interest on credit card debt while spending money on Netflix, Spotify, and DoorDash. That's like your house being on fire and you're inside arguing about which TV show to watch. The priorities are completely backwards. Second, there's the mental accounting problem. People think of their credit card debt as separate from their other money. They've got $2,000 in their checking account, but they're making minimum payments on $5,000 in credit card debt at 24% interest. Why? Because the checking account money feels different. It's their emergency fund or their cushion, but that math makes no sense. You're losing 24% on the debt while maybe earning 4% on the savings. You're literally losing 20% by not using that money to pay off the debt. But people do this all the time because, in their minds, the checking account money and the credit card debt exist in separate buckets. Third, there's the debt fatigue. People look at their credit card balance, see a big number like $8,000, and feel overwhelmed. The minimum payment feels manageable. Paying more feels impossible, so they just default to the minimum and try not to think about it too much. This is exactly what credit card companies want. They want you to feel just overwhelmed enough that you don't attack the debt aggressively, but not so overwhelmed that you default. The minimum payment keeps you in that perfect zone of perpetual debt. Breaking free from the trap, all right. So we've established that the minimum payment trap is real and it's destroying your wealth. Now let's talk about how to actually escape it. Because knowing about the trap doesn't help if you stay in it. First, you need to understand the real numbers on your specific debt. Get out your credit card statements right now. Not later. Right now, look at your balance. Look at your interest rate and then go to a credit card payoff calculator online. Bankrate has a good one. Plug in your numbers and look at 2 scenarios, paying just the minimum versus paying 2 to 3 times the minimum. The difference will probably shock you. That shock is good. You need to feel that to get motivated to change, for example. If you've got $4,000 at 21% interest, Paying the minimum of $80 will take 15 years and cost you $3,400 in interest. But if you paid $200 per month instead, you'd be done in less than 2 years and only pay $800 in interest. Same debt, but you save $2,600 and 13 years of your life. Second, you need to stop using the cards while you're paying them off. This should be obvious, but people constantly try to pay down debt while simultaneously adding to it. That's like trying to bail out a boat while someone's drilling holes in the bottom. Stop the bleeding first. I know this is uncomfortable. I know you think you need your credit cards for emergencies, but be honest. How many of your recent credit card purchases were actual emergencies? That DoorDash order wasn't an emergency. That Amazon purchase wasn't an emergency. You're using the cards out of habit and convenience. Not necessity. Cut up the cards if you have to. Freeze them in a block of ice. Delete the numbers from your browser autofill. Whatever it takes to break the habit, you can rebuild your credit and get new cards later once you've escaped the trap. But right now, you need to stop digging the hole deeper. Third, you need to find extra money to throw at this debt. And before you say, I don't have any extra money, let me challenge that. Most people have $100 to $500 per month in spending that's not essential. Subscriptions they barely use, eating out multiple times per week. Convenience purchases, impulse buys. Do a 30-day spending audit, track every single dollar. You'll be horrified at where your money actually goes. Then cut ruthlessly. Every dollar you free up should go straight to credit card debt until it's gone. Not to savings, not to investments, to debt. Nothing you can invest in will beat the 20 to 25% you're losing on credit card interest. Fourth, use the avalanche or snowball method. Avalanche means paying off the highest interest rate card first, which saves you the most money. Snowball means paying off the smallest balance first, which gives you psychological wins. Either works, just pick one and stick with it. Here's how it works. Make minimum payments on everything except your Target card. Then throw every extra dollar at that Target card until it's dead once it's paid off. Take that entire payment amount and add it to the minimum of your next Target card. This creates momentum. Each paid-off card makes the next one faster. The uncomfortable truth now, let me say something that's going to make some people mad. If you're carrying credit card debt and making minimum payments, you're not a victim, you're a volunteer. Credit card companies are predatory and the system is rigged against you, but you're choosing to participate in it. Nobody forced you to spend money you didn't have. Nobody forced you to make only minimum payments. Nobody forced you to keep using the cards while carrying a balance. Those were all choices, bad choices, but choices nonetheless. I'm not saying this to shame you. I'm saying it because you can't fix a problem until you take ownership of it. As long as you're blaming credit card companies or the economy or your circumstances, you'll stay trapped. The moment you take ownership and say, I messed up and I'm going to fix this, that's when change becomes possible. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Most people stay in credit card debt because they're trying to live a lifestyle they can't afford. They want to look successful, they want to keep up with their friends, they want the nice things they see on Instagram. So they swipe the card and worry about it later, but later never comes. Later just becomes more debt, more minimum payments, more years trapped in the cycle. At some point you have to ask yourself, is maintaining this appearance worth staying broke forever? Is impressing people who don't care about you worth sacrificing your financial future? The people who escape credit card debt are the ones who get brutally honest with themselves. They admit they've been living beyond their means. They stop trying to impress other people. They make sacrifices for 1 to 2 years to get out of debt instead of making minimum payments for 20 years. What freedom looks like? Let me tell you what life looks like on the other side of credit card debt. Because you need to know what you're working toward. When you have no credit card debt, your entire paycheck is yours. You're not sending $300 to $500 per month to banks. That money stays with you. You can save it, invest it. Spend it on things you actually enjoy. It's yours. Your stress level drops dramatically. You're not avoiding looking at your credit card statements. You're not playing balance transfer games. You're not calculating whether you can afford something based on available credit. You're free. You sleep better. Seriously. Financial stress affects your physical health. When you eliminate credit card debt, that weight lifts. You didn't even realize how heavy it was until it's gone. And here's the best part. Once you've paid off credit card debt, You can do hard things, you've proven to yourself that you have discipline and you can achieve financial goals. That confidence carries over into everything else, building an emergency fund, investing, starting a business, whatever your next goal is. You can do it because you already did something harder. Your action plan, alright, so here's what you're going to do after watching this video. Not tomorrow, not next week, today first. Write down every credit card balance, interest rate, and minimum payment. Get the full picture, no more avoiding it. Second, calculate how long it will take to pay off each card at the minimum payment. Use an online calculator. Face the brutal truth of the trap you're in. Third, find $100 to $200 per month in your budget that you can redirect to debt. Cancel subscriptions, meal prep instead of eating out. Say no to things you don't need. Find the money. Fourth, make a debt payoff plan using avalanche or snowball method. Write it down, make it concrete. Fifth, stop using credit cards completely until you're out of debt. I don't care if you have rewards points or cash back. You can't out-rewards 22% interest. Stop using them finally. Set up automatic payments for more than the minimum. Don't rely on willpower or motivation. Automate it. Make the decision once instead of having to make it every month. Look, the credit card trap is real. It's designed to keep you paying forever. But it only works if you let it. You have the power to break free. You just have to decide that your future is worth more than your current comfort. If this video opened your eyes to how credit cards are keeping you broke, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below telling me your credit card debt situation and what your payoff plan is. No judgment, just accountability. Let's help each other escape this trap. And if you know someone drowning in credit card debt making minimum payments, send them this video. Sometimes people need to see the math laid out clearly before they understand how trapped they are. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.